representative of One Message Foundation, we'd like to extend a welcome to everyone who's come to tonight's event to hear this lecture. And we truly appreciate the fact that many of you, although maybe you may not agree with everything that you hear, at least take the time to come here this evening to hear something about Islam. And it's certainly our hope that with the information that will be shared tonight, you will come away with the truth about this religion, and inshallah, God willing, we'll come to understand some of the important aspects of our religion and hopefully clear some of the misconceptions that you might have, or any other questions that you might have. Before we get into an introduction to tonight's speaker, we just have a couple announcements to make. And the first is to those students who are attending tonight's event, and if you're attending tonight's event as an extra credit part of your course, then we would ask that all of you please stay till the very end, especially after the question and answers, because that really is a part of tonight's event. And at the conclusion of the event, there will be a sign-up sheet that will be available. So just please stay for the entire event, and including the question and answers. Because again, maybe there are questions that you might not think of that other persons might ask, and so it's beneficial for you to hear the answers to those questions. So we invite you all to please stay till the very end. Also, just to everybody in general, we would like to make mention of the fact that tonight's event really is a lecture. And so this is not really the setting or a time for any type of debate, but it's a lecture. So we'd like to tell everybody just to appropriately respect the fact that it is a lecture, and if during the course of the lecture you have any questions, to please write those questions down. We don't want to interrupt the speaker throughout the course of the lecture, because this can be a little bit of a distraction. So write those questions down if you have them, and inshallah, God willing, at the very end of the event, during that question and answer section, we will spend the time to answer those questions that you have. So write them down and just save them, and at the very end, you will have an opportunity to ask those questions and receive an answer to them. So in regards to tonight's speaker, Uthman ibn Farooq, we'd like to make a little bit of mention about tonight's speaker and who he is. Uthman ibn Farooq is a person who has the credential in that he has and holds a master's degree in the field of what we call the sciences of hadith. This is specifically with reference to Islamic knowledge in regards to the narrations of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. He has also studied under various Islamic scholars and teachers throughout various countries where Muslims are the majority population. And studying under these individuals, he has received what we call as ijaza or ijazat, which is basically authorization which he has received on the part of these Islamic scholars to in turn teach the works and the books that he has studied under these individuals. He himself is also an author of a book which deals with a specific subject or topic of Islamic worship. Brother Uthman is also very active in San Diego among the Muslim community. He's a lecturer as well as a teacher. He holds various courses, weekly course, which he teaches different Islamic subjects. He is also very active in spreading the message of Islam to non-Muslims by means of what we call da'wah activity, or, for example, going to different events to spread the knowledge of Islam, as well as attending various colleges and university campuses throughout San Diego to deliver lectures about the religion. So with all of this in mind, we'd like to ask now that everybody turn their attention to tonight's speaker, Uthman ibn Farooq, as he discusses with us tonight's interesting topic about demystifying the religion of Islam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu ala man taba al-huda. We'd like to begin today with a quick reminder. I know a lot of you may have come here for the extra credit. Trust me, I was in college. I remember those days. You don't know how you're doing your final. You could use the extra credit. But I would like to discuss something which I think is very important and look at the significance of history and our place in history and how this event can actually affect that. If you think back in history, you ever wonder, how could it be? You know, we get fed these news feeds about the past and these massacres, and you know, when you see people rushing in huge crowds to greet Hitler, somebody who's, you know, again, we've been taught about how cruel and insane and, you know, a homicidal maniac of a person he was, and he drove Germany into, you know, almost at the brink of destruction and everything. Then you wonder, how was it that that many people, millions and millions and millions of sane, regular, hardworking people would follow such a leader, and would follow such a leader and allow him to carry out acts of genocide and acts of mass murders, invading countries, trying to wipe out populations. How did people who were men of God even follow such a man and agree with him to be able to bring forth a very common picture that we see? I'm sure everybody's seen these pictures before. How did this happen? I wonder myself, and you know, not to think too far into far-off lands, even if you look at our own country. This is a period that our country went through. Can you imagine? Look at the sign. Who wants to read the sign for me? Somebody. Raise a hand. Gentleman right there at the front. Man, you're racist. How could you even use that word? Right? Imagine in our time if somebody said, Japs, keep moving. This is a white man's neighborhood. Imagine how offensive that would be. How many people here would be offended by that? Oh, you wouldn't? Really? Seriously? Okay. You're going to have to stand the ball with me, and I'm watching you guys. All right? So everybody here would be offended by this. Imagine if ordinary citizens who had no crime, had committed no wrongdoing, were arrested and taken and put behind barbed wires and made to wear uniforms and humiliated and put in prison internment camps in these kinds of cages for years and years without even being charged with a crime. How many of you would be appalled by that as an American? Somebody wouldn't, apparently. I'm just kidding. Okay. Imagine this. Imagine notices like this. If you go into a neighborhood and there's a notice that if you're of a certain heritage or a certain people, you're not allowed to be in this neighborhood. You have to, even if your ancestry, you have to go straight to a prison camp, even though you've done nothing wrong. And imagine if politicians were trying to ban an entire group, a segment of society, even though that segment in a whole had done nothing wrong. Imagine, how could Americans have let this happen based on the freedoms? Oh, and I got the roll music and everything. Even though America was based on such rules that we believe in people being equal, imagine what would you have done if you were there during this time? How did this happen? The media, propaganda, villainization of a people. Do you see this cartoon? What is it telling you? It is telling you that all people of Japanese ethnicity are only awaiting an order from some emperor to attack America, even though this was totally false. Totally false. You know who drew that? Dr. Seuss, by the way. No, I'm not kidding. Look it up. So when you have this kind of a war where you take cartoons and you make pictures that make you think that there is an ethnicity or a religious group, here it being the Jewish population in Germany, that is stabbing you. They are your hidden cells. They are waiting amongst you to attack you because they are your enemy. When you get fed this propaganda and you don't read and you don't think and you don't speak, then you start to think that there are certain people that are not humans. You start to think that they're animals. You start to get fed this idea and you start to buy it. And this is something we have to be very careful about, because what happens, it takes a human being and starts to make a human into being less of a human, dehumanization. You see what they do? If they don't want you to be a human, they give you a number. This is from World War II. And this is from a few years ago. So, if you look at the idea where you start giving numbers to people, that's why prisoners are not given names, they're given numbers. so that people don't think of them as people. You see, you take the human aspects away, you cover up the eyes, you cover up the faces, you cover them up so then they don't look like human beings. So when you're being told that people were electrocuted and shocked and tortured, you don't think of them as being humans. Waterboarding, it's probably some fun activities like surfing. Sure, why don't you go try it? So when you look at this kind of a thing, then you have to think in our time, when this is happening, what are we doing? As people of conscience, as people who look back at Germans during World War II and thought, how could they let that happen? As people who thought back to the 40s about what the Japanese were going through and the internment camps, and we thought, how could Americans have let that happen? Innocent people were being rounded up and put in 8 cages, never even being charged with anything. How could that happen? It's because people didn't take the time, like you today, to come out and think and realize and speak, and then realize that maybe what we are being fed, like those cartoons, aren't the truth. So who are we going to be like in this time? We talk about the times of Martin Luther King, we watch these movies about Malcolm X, and the struggle during the civil rights movement, and all of us think, yeah, I'd be right there, right? I'd be right there, I'd be that guy, you know? I'm like, I'm with you guys, you know, I want to stand up for what's right. You know, I'd be the guy against the Nazis in Germany, but would we? I mean, if we're going with this propaganda today that we're being fed, if we're not trying to clarify these issues, build those bridges, read ourselves about what is being fed to us through Fox and all these other shows that are no longer the news but more propaganda machines, then we aren't that guy. Then we are those people who quietly let a massacre, a genocide, an internment of our civilization go on. And we don't want that to be. And that's one of the points today, is to clarify some of those issues and make all of us understand that history, when you don't know it, when you don't think about it, it will repeat itself. And if you don't believe me, look at what's going on. You know, when we see these mass rallies that were anti-Semitic, talking about getting rid of the Jews and how Jews should no longer be in Germany, we're seeing the same thing today in Germany. Same country, different religion, different ethnicity, but it is going on. So where will you stand? If we talk about Germans and how could they do this, well, look at what's going on in our own backyard, where people are not allowed to build places of worship, where people are being criminalized as a huge population with the actions of the few. And this is why we want to look at history and then our time. And look at history and then our time. And then ask ourselves, where will we stand 100 years from now when the history of our time will be discussed? When we look at those cartoons that were used in the 40s and 50s to justify the genocide of Jewish Germans, you will find the similar types of cartoons being made today. When we look at the propaganda machines of the Nazis, we find, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know, Fox, oh, oops, must have messed that up. You will find similar propaganda machines in our time. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit and watch and let that feed your brain? Or no, are you going to be like those people that will go and speak to a people, that will attend a mosque, that will talk to a Muslim, that will pick up a copy of the Quran and read for yourself and know what is the truth from what is propaganda? Speak to a Muslim. You have Muslims here on your campus. There are about 8 million plus Muslims in the United States. There are around 160 to 200,000 Muslims in San Diego County by itself. We have 25 mosques. We have a lot of Muslims that are around. Speak to one. We're human. We don't bite. Sometimes. It's different. So, learn. Open up that dialogue. We have an amazing amount of information available to us today. This is not like those days where we couldn't find out about something. Today, not just the internet. Internet's one tool. Go to a mosque, come to one of these brothers here or sisters, and get a Quran for yourself. Go read it yourself. Get a booklet. Read. This is the problem. We want everything in 20-second YouTube videos. That's not going to happen. Well, if you are going to, Jon Stewart's pretty funny. You can watch his videos. But But I would really suggest clearing up some of these misconceptions, going to events even like this, even when you're not getting extra credit. So, having that introduction, I want to begin with discussing some of the common misconceptions. And we're going to dwell on a couple more than others. I realize that because there are some that are being pushed more than others. So, we want to deal with the issues at hand. First thing we hear is all Muslims are terrorists. You know, we've heard it. I've heard it yelled at me from people that were speeding away because they were too cowardly to say it to my face. So, you've heard it before. And even major politicians, I mean, you cannot imagine that an elected official in a country like this would make a comment like that, but they have. So, let's talk about this. There are about 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. Out of the around 6 billion people that we have, 6 to 7, almost 2 out of every 6, almost, are going to be Muslim. So if you had almost 2 billion terrorists trying to blow themselves up, I hate to say this, but the world would no longer be. Right? I mean, even if they were taking a couple of guys out, it would be finished. So everybody realizes this is a ridiculous statement. Even if somebody who's racist will make it, they know themselves they're lying. Because not all, right? So when we make this clarification, and everybody who is of sane mind would agree that this is not true, the next thing we hear is, well, maybe not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim, right? Every single terrorist is Muslim though, right? Wrong. And I don't want to give my opinion, let's talk facts. So the definition taken, I looked at the FBI definition, it was really long, but so I just used this little one because I don't want to keep you guys too long. The use of violent acts to frighten the people in an area as a way of trying to achieve a political goal. This is the Webster Dictionary definition. You can Google it yourself. I've given the URL here. So if we take that definition of terrorism, trying to scare people through violence to get to a political goal, then you could say Hitler was a terrorist. He terrorized a lot of people. You could definitely say the KKK are terrorists. They terrorized a lot of people, right? You could say the IRA were terrorists. All of those would fall under that. But then you're going to tell me, you know what, no, we're not talking about way back then. We're talking about bombings and suicide things and those kinds of things. We're talking about that. So okay, let's talk about that. Where did modern terrorism, what we would consider a modern phase of terrorism, begin? The birth of modern terrorism, which you may not realize, is the Argonne bombing of the King David Hotel. Google it yourself. Look, I'm encouraging you to look it up yourself. That's why I give you all these references and names and dates. I don't want you to depend on me. I'm just here to open this door to something that you may not realize. How many of you guys knew about this event before coming today? 1, 2, out of 3, 4. Ooh, we got out of the 30, 40, 50 people that we have, we got 3, 4 people. When this was such a historic event that it is the birth of using bombs and terrorist acts to get to a political goal, which was the definition of terrorism that we decided. And if you look up, even the FBI and other databases, they will tell you this is the first use of such activities in a modern period. And who was it carried out by? It was carried out on July 22nd, 1946, by Jewish Zionist terrorists. Again, not to paint all Jews with this picture. This is one segment of that population. Just like you can't paint all Muslims or all Christians or all Buddhists with one broad brush. But we want to know. Because today when we say Jewish terrorists, everybody's ears go up. What? Did you just make a mistake? No, I didn't. Read. And they used this bombing of the British military and administration office in Palestine at the King David Hotel in Jerusalem. 91 people were killed and 46 other were injured from different nationalities. And this was the beginning of modern terrorism. And it was not rooted by Muslims. You will say, oh, that was one event, long time ago, it never happened again. Wrong. Anybody know this man already? Alright, even the 2, 3 we had earlier. Baruch Goldstein was an American-born Israeli physician, a man proclaiming to follow the Jewish faith. He mass murdered innocent Muslim worshippers while they were praying in the Ibrahim Khalil Mosque. While they were there was a morning prayer going on, not armed, no conflict, not in the Gaza battle, no military. He just walked into a mosque, gunned them down, killed around 30 people, injured another 125, and he was a dedicated, according to his own mind, in his own mind, he was a dedicated Jew, carrying out the work of God. And that's how he explained his actions. I don't agree with him. I don't think he was following his faith. But that's how he justified his act of terrorism. Let's talk about terrorism against the United States. Who knows about the USS Liberty? One person does. 2, 3, excellent. 4. Oh yeah, right. This was an attack on a US carrier by an Israeli jet. This actually happened. I never heard about this in school. I never read about it in history. Apparently in my history book, this got deleted somehow. This just wasn't there. But when you go and you research and you watch the videos of those survivors that were on that carrier, they will tell you this was no accident. There were no other ships from any other nationality in those international waters when this US military carrier was attacked, not just by the Israeli Air Force, but by the Navy, combining killing 34 American military crew members and injuring another 171. Look it up. These are acts of terrorism. Don't want to dwell on any one religion or race, so let's move on. Let's talk about Christianity. Has there been terrorist acts committed in the name of Christianity? I will quote President Obama, who recently made this comment that he's got a lot of flack for, but read what he says. We shouldn't get on a high horse and think, because President Obama, contrary to what the Tea Party may think, he's not Muslim. He said he's not. He said, we should not get on our high horse and think that this is unique to some other place. Remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ. Slavery and Jim Crow all too often was justified in the name of Christ. This is coming from the President of the United States, a man who is a Christian himself. That this work of terrorism has happened. But again, somebody's going to say, oh, that was a long time ago, the Crusades. I wasn't even born. Well, let's get a little closer to home. Anybody remember this guy? Okay, come on, you got to have some hands now, all right? Timothy McVeigh, a man who was actually a member of a church. You know, people are like, oh, he wasn't a religious man. Look it up. His father, his mother, they said he attended churches, and he bombed the FBI building in 1995. Some of you may be a little young at the time, but you were there. It's all right. It's not that long ago. He killed 168 people and injured over 600. According to the US government, and look this up, this remains the most significant act of domestic terrorism in United States history, till today, which was not a foreign plot. A domestic plot, till today, this remains the most significant act. And this is not one person. We can talk about Eric Rudolph, the one who bombed the Olympic Park bomber. He used to go around bombing abortion clinics and what we would consider same-sex, equal marriage centers and other things like that. He was a member of the Church of Israel, which is a church associated with a group called the Christian Identity Movement. If you don't know about the Army of God or the Christian Identity Movement or the Aryan Brotherhood, look it up. You will find out that everything that you see in ISIS and Al-Qaeda is right here in the US. It's just a matter of how the situation is. You know, when we talk about foreign terrorists and you talk about Iraq and Syria and all these kinds of things, think about this. Imagine if another country invaded the United States. Let's say like the US invading Iraq. Hypothetically. With some made-up theory about, oh, I don't know, weapons of mass destruction or something like that. Well, what happened to that? Anyway. And then your police force is taken out, the military is taken out, the National Guard are taken out. Every neighborhood starts to defend itself. Every neighborhood starts to arm itself, defend itself. Everything will fall among sectarian lines. Everything will fall amongst racial lines. There'll be Mexicans and blacks and whites attacking. Look at the LA riots. Look at what happens in Ferguson. Imagine if there was no government. Then we put a country in that situation. We invade a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. Nothing. Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein hated each other. Had no connection. Prove it. One atom's bit of connection, not there. We invaded this country because they had weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. They didn't have them. We admit it now. Sorry. My bad. Invaded your country, destroyed your infrastructure, left you as a mess. And now we're like, how could that be going on? Oh. Imagine these people if they had no fear of a government. Let's look at a little bit something closer to home. Who knows this man? Wow, I guess Fox News didn't cover it as good as they should have. In 2012, a couple years ago, 3 years ago, this man walks into a Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. And even though he is an ex-veteran, army, served in the army, he is, as you can see, a very proud white supremacist, a man who sports the cross, you can see. He walks into a Sikh temple and opens fire, guns down innocent people in Wisconsin, in the US. Right? And what he's trying to do is kill Muslims. But because he's racist, and racist people apparently are not the smartest people in the world, he doesn't realize they're Sikh and not Muslim. Not that it would have been any better. But this is a man who is a terrorist. So when we talk about terrorism and all terrorists are Muslim, then we should read before we speak, and we'll realize that terrorism has no religion. We will end this with this gentleman. Who knows him? Come on. See some hands. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, this is pretty disappointing. This man, he is of Norwegian descent. He attacked a government building in Oslo with a car bomb, killing how many people was it? Few people there, and then he continued his massacre by going on an island and killing 69 children at a youth camp. You look at the picture, he's executing kids. 69 kids, and the people, 8 people at the building, all of them, he does it in the name of a crusade. He writes a 1,500-page manifesto with crosses and crusader symbols talking about the crusade of Europe to get rid of the infidel Muslims from Europe. But Fox refuses to call him a Christian terrorist. Why? If a Muslim that never prayed in his life, was not a member of any mosque, just went nuts and shot somebody, it would be Al-Qaeda and ISIS's special, sleeper cell that's went into action, and Islam and Muslims and Quran. But when a man who himself writes a 1,500-page manifesto talking about his actions being for Christ, being a crusade, who is a member of a church. You can look up his biography, Wikipedia him, Google him. He was a member of the Christian Church of Norway. He was a man who considered himself a Christian carrying out a crusade. But nobody wants to call him a Christian terrorist. Bill O'Reilly, no, what? Christian, no way. This is a double standard that's being fed to us for a reason. And we don't want to just harp on these religions. If you want to keep going, let's talk about Hinduism. Hinduism, a religion that we usually talk about and think of flowers and peace and meditation and yoga. You don't think they're Hindu? Look up the Gujarat massacre. Look up the RSS, BJP, Modi that came here, the Prime Minister of India. He was banned from the US until he became Prime Minister. Why? Because he supervised a genocide in Gujarat. Under the name of Hinduism, a religion that is supposed to definitely produce peaceful people. You talk about Buddhism. Come on. Buddhist terrorists? No way. Right? You can't even eat meat. Yes, there are Buddhist terrorists. Look up Time magazine. Read about what happened and what is happening in Myanmar, which used to be called Burma. A massacre at the hands of Buddhist priests. My point is not to insult any other religion. My point is to clarify that terrorism has no connection to any religion or ethnicity. It's a tool that is used by people trying to get to a political end. It has been used by people of different faiths. It has been used by atheists. It has been used by the Red Army, which was an atheist Japanese terrorist organization that let out nerve gas in the subways in Japan. It has been used by different religions. And with historic facts, we can tell you that not only are not all Muslim terrorists, but not even all terrorists are Muslims. But we've been fed this line that okay, maybe there's one or two non-Muslim terrorists, but the majority of terrorists are Muslims, right? Wrong. According to the FBI, and this is not mine, you can look up, there's the URL, look it up. According to the FBI, in the last recording, which they took a segment of time, and this was after 9/11, 2002, 2005, when they recorded all acts of terrorism. Now this does not only mean what Fox recorded. Because if this was only what Fox News reported, then this would be like all Muslims except like 1% there, or maybe. But this is not Fox News. This is reality. This is the FBI and their recording of all actions that use terrorist violence for their political cause, and this is a breakdown of those groups that use them. Look it up. Don't believe me. There's a URL to the FBI.gov. It's not my site. This is why we have been fooled. We have been bamboozled. We have been tricked. We are being corrupted to think that there is a reality that is not there. Just like the fear that was put of Japanese Americans during World War II that didn't exist. Just like Hitler put the fear of Jews and others in the German population that didn't exist, we are being put in that situation. We need to wake up and realize what's going on. Now, quickly we can talk about Europe as well, because apparently there are no-go zones in Europe where non-Muslims can't go. I don't know. I've been to Europe many times and I've never found one. And millions of people that live there don't realize there's one, but Fox News somehow got it. Here is a breakdown of terrorist acts by percentage between 2006 and 2008. And you look at the Islamist, quote-unquote, statistic that's given. Yes, it's what gets on the news. Charlie Hebdo was all over the news. But when 3 Muslims were executed by a man execution style just recently, here in America, we don't see that media coverage. When in France, Muslims are regularly killed by hate crimes, we don't get that media coverage. When a non-Muslim walks into a mosque and shoots up the mosque, like we saw earlier with Goldstein, we don't see that coverage. And that's why an unbalanced picture starts to form in the minds of people. Now, having discussed this, I know a thought may still be coming. Well, maybe people of other religions, they used violence, but in Islam, it's the Quran that preaches violence, it preaches hate, right? That is wrong. When we look at the Quran, and we have a Quran, if anybody wants a Quran, we can get you a Quran, read it yourself. It's not, we don't have any edited versions. You know, when you go to a Barnes & Noble or like some kind of bookstore, I'm not trying to plug any bookstore here, and you go and you check the Bible, you will find a lot of versions, right? You will find the King James Version, you will find the new updated King James Version, you will find the new living edition, you will find the Catholic Bible, which is a different amount of chapters than the Protestant, you will find the American Living Version, the new revised edited King James Version. But in the Quran, we have one Quran. Shia, Sunni, this, that, we have one Quran. So you want to get the Quran, read it. Here, I'll give you references myself. What does the Quran talk about? Anyone killed, who kills a person unjustly, it would be as if he had killed all of humanity. And if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved all of mankind. Now, are there verses in the Quran about fighting? Of course there are. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a practical book. Every book does. The Bible has it. Don't believe me? I have one. We can read it in a minute. But what Fox News doesn't tell you is when you read those verses, read what comes after it. Read what comes before it. Read in context. And you will find that always, even after the verses that have to do with battles and war, it will say, if they incline towards peace, then incline towards it. And trust in Allah. Surely He's the all-seeing and all-knowing. Always, even when there is battle, if there is a way to stop the battle and have peace, that is what the Quran orders us to do as Muslims. Now, somebody may say, oh, but there are battles and talks of killing and stuff in the Quran. So, just so we don't have any misconceptions, here's a Bible. I didn't print it. Somebody gave it to us somewhere trying to convert us. So, Isaiah 13:14, verse number 21, prepare slaughter for his children because of the iniquity of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess a land and fill the trace of world with city. Killing of children, okay. Talk about brotherly love. And Moses stood in the entrance of the camp and said, whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. And he said to them, thus say the Lord God of Israel, let every man put his sword on his side and go out and from the entrance throughout the camp, and let every man kill his brother, and every man kill his companion, and every man kill his neighbor. So the sons of Levi did accordingly, and to the word of Moses, and about 3,000 men of the people fell dead that day. Now, does this mean that Christians are ordained to do these kinds of actions? No. I'm not saying that at all. But can you take any religious text and take verses out of context and justify killing? Yes. Has it been done by the Bible? Yes. Google it. Hitler used the Bible in his speeches. This is what the President Obama said. Even when we looked at slavery, the Bible was used to justify slavery, even though it goes against the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him. So, we want to be fair when we talk about religious texts. We want to admit that every religious text can be and has been misused in the past, including the Quran. Misconception number 2. Muslims hate women. And for the Muslim women here, this may be surprising, but apparently this is something that we hear all the time. Muslim men hate women. I don't hate women. I love my mother. She's here. I love my wife. I love my kids. But we hear this. And when we talk about the fact that we don't, we hear, well, maybe they don't hate women, but you force them to wear that thing. I don't know what that thing is, but you make them wear this thing. So we wanted to talk about the hijab. And this is a covering, and you will see many of the Muslim women here wearing it. And if anybody's being forced to wear it here, leave now, go to like a police station. You're in America, don't. But I guess not. So there goes that. But let's talk about it. I'm going to play a little game here. And I got prizes. Isn't that cool? I don't want to throw up the love. I'm going to get somebody. Baseball is not my skill. So. My quarterbacking days are over before they started. So whoever answers correctly will get a prize. We're going to guess religions here. This one's a pretty easy round, okay? See, we're going to get candy. This is going to be funner than you thought. Right? I have to call on you. Let's start with the first one, which is on your left. What religion do you think those women are? Yes, you are there. Islam. Excellent. You get a prize. They are Muslims. Oh, sorry. I gave that one away. Oh, come on. It's Mother Teresa. Everybody knew it anyway. All right. The middle one. The lady in the back. Yes. Yes. Huh? The middle one? All right. Next. Gentleman in the back. Oh, man. I can't believe you guys don't know what this is. Yes, you're right there. Christian, she is. This is Laura Bush. This is President Bush's wife. She's a Methodist Christian. And the last one is Muslim. All right, just because that didn't go as smoothly as we thought, we're going to have a second round. Ooh, more chances. All right, guess We'll start from this one, I think, because I messed up the last time. A lady in the back. Orthodox what? Jewish? Yes, that is correct. To the surprise of many people, this lady is Jewish, and there is a reference, in case you don't believe me, you can look up. This is a form of hijab which includes covering the face that is utilized in some sects of Judaism. The middle lady. I can't get that one wrong, can I? Keep everybody. Oh, come on, this is so easy. Where are the hands? The one in the middle. If you're wrong, we don't take any points away. What a great test this is, right? You wish your chemistry final was like this. Not you two. Okay, Idris, you can do it. Yusuf, you were there before. Not Christian. Anif. Yes, sir. It's okay. Anybody else? Alright, since you guys are all on. Alright. Not Buddhist. I can't see a hand. I hear an answer. Okay. Go ahead. It is. You are correct. She is Jewish as well. There's the source. Time magazine. Alright. Last one for this round. Made in the blue. Yes. Huh? Yes. Muslim. That is correct. See, you guys were expecting another foreign religion. I gotta keep you on your toes. All right. Last round. This is the final round. We'll start with the lady on the right. Yes. Yes, you. Amish, you're correct. Good job. The lady in the middle. Yes, down in the back. Ooh, close but no cigar. I would have given it to you, but then those people from that religion will be offended, so I can't. Yes. Quickly. Sikh, that is correct. She is a Sikh lady, which is not a part of the Hindu faith, it's a separate faith, but they also practice the covering. The last lady in the blue, yes. Hindu, that is correct. So the point of this exercise, other than bribing you with candy, is to show that the hijab is not just an Islamic concept. There is the concept of hijab in other religions. You will find it in Christianity, you will find it in Buddhism, you will find it in Hinduism, you will find it in Judaism, you will find it in Islam. The rules and regulations may vary, but you will find it in all of the major religions. When we look at the Bible, many of you, and I'm not going to ask you to raise hands, but may be practitioners or practicers of the Christian faith. And if you are, I suggest you look up the Bible. And you see where, there's the verse right there, you can look it up. I have a Bible here if you want to see it. I know there's differences in translations because there are so many different types of Bibles, but in essence what you will find is but a woman dishonors her head if she prays or prophesies without a covering on her head. For this is the same as shaving her head. Yes, if she refuses to wear a head covering, she should cut off all her hair. But since it is shameful for a woman to have her hair cut or her head shaved, she should wear a covering. It's in the Bible. You don't believe me? Right there. Look it up. Go home, look it up. There's a verse right there. Right? Now, if Christians today don't practice this, that's up to Christians. I'm not a Christian theologist. My master's is not in Christian theology. So I can't speak for the Christian faith. What I can say is it's in the Bible. And you will find early depictions of Christian women always covered. If you look at pictures of Mary, the mother of Jesus, peace be upon both of them, you will not find her in short shorts or without a head covering or something like that. You will find her in that modest dress that we find many of the Muslim women in today. So this is something that is in Christianity. It is also in Judaism. Hijab is also there in the Jewish faith. Rabbi Meir Shishler writes, the halacha, Jewish law, requires married women to cover their hair. Now, in Judaism, it has more to do with a married woman. In Christianity, it has to do with the authority of man on woman. In Islam, it doesn't. There are differences. But I'm just showing you that this is a concept that's there. You will find this book, you can look it up, The Obligation of Married Women to Cover Their Hair in Judaism, and it's there. And you will find Orthodox Jewish women covering their hair, and some of them even covering their face, as we saw earlier, as a part of their faith. So when a Muslim woman does it, it doesn't mean that she's being forced. Because in Islam, the concept of hijab has nothing to do with your husband, or the authority of a man, or being married or not married. It has to do with modesty and your right to cover. When we find this idea that Muslim women are oppressed, and Muslim women are being forced to do this and do that and to cover, it's amazing because nobody cares enough to go and talk to a Muslim woman. Nobody cares enough to ask these women, why are they fighting for the right to wear the hijab? Why is it that countries who champion freedom of speech, freedom of expression, personal liberties like France have banned the hijab? Have banned the hijab in schools, in public places, and the niqab, they've even banned it on the street. If you're walking in the street and you feel like your own freedom, with your own choice to practice your religion and cover your face, you will be ticketed, you will be arrested. Why? Where is freedom of speech? Where is freedom of choice? Where is the right to practice your religion? What happened to Charlie Hebdo and this and that? And what happened? Why is there this hypocrisy that we find in the values being taught to us? Why is it that in certain aspects, freedom of speech has to be protected no matter what, and you can do whatever and draw whatever and say whatever, but in the same country, France, if you just say, you know what, I don't know if the Holocaust really happened the way it did, you'll be arrested. Google it. People are arrested for denying the Holocaust. I'm not denying it, I'm just saying there's this fact. In Austria and many other countries, illegal for you to hold that opinion, to express that opinion. Why? Why is that not freedom of speech? Why don't those people have the freedom to express their thoughts like the cartoon drawers have their freedom? We should be fair when we talk about freedom. So when we talk about hijab, in the Quran, it has nothing to do with your husband or being married or men forcing it upon anybody. It has to do with being an honorable woman. It has to do with modesty. It has to do with your connection with your Lord, with your God. And unlike in the Jewish faith, where a woman has to cover even when she's in the house with her husband and children, a Muslim woman does not cover when she's around her family. Those that are close, we call them in Arabic term, mahram. But this is only when they're around those people that could possibly have malice for them, which are called ghair mahram. And this is for her own dignity and honor. And the Quran reminds us of not having any compulsion in religion. This is a verse in the Quran that requires a lot of understanding. I'm not here to teach a class on theology, but I'm here to show the truth about what the Quran says. What about the idea that if women wear hijab, they would no longer be able to be productive members of society? That is not true. This is a false notion that we're being fed, that women, whether they cover their head, whether they cover their face, whether they cover just the outer jilbab, that they cannot be productive members of society. They can be, they are, and they choose it. And the harsh reality is that people are not allowing women to be able to practice their religion and practice the hijab out of their own choice. Maybe there are people in other countries who are forced into it. I'm not saying it's not happening. It could be. I have never met one. But what do we have in front of us today? We have Muslim women here, many of them covered. Walk up to one of them. Ask them, politely. I want to offend them. Right? Ask them, hey, do you prefer to wear the hijab? Do you choose to wear it? Is there a guy with a gun that follows you all day in case you take it off? Why do you choose this? And let them speak for themselves. Why does Bill O'Reilly or Roger Hitchcock or Fox News need to speak for them when they have their own voice, they have their own thoughts, they have their own ideas? Moving forward, I want to end this presentation by not just clearing up misconceptions, but also to talk about what Islam is. We talked about what Islam isn't. But let's talk about what Islam is. Islam is a religion. What does the word Islam mean? We'll talk about it from a practical perspective, from a linguistic perspective. As those of you who know Arabic language, and maybe you're studying it, you know Arabic is a unique language. Most Arabic words, they will go back to a 3-letter root. Other than some ruba'i, almost all of them will go to thalathi, right? So if we take the root word back, aslama is where the word Islam comes from. Aslama is to surrender or to give yourself up, meaning that you put yourself in the way that your Lord chooses for you. You surrender yourself to what your Lord or your Creator knows is best for you. And aslama comes from the root word of sin, lam, mim, salam, which is the word for peace. It is what the word salam or peace comes from. And that is the tying together of the word Islam with peace. It is a submission, inner and outer, to our Lord, our Creator. It is not named after any man. This is a very important point to understand about Islam. When you talk about Christianity, it is named after, oh, this week I'm not getting candy, nobody's answering now. Christ. So before there was Christ, right, you couldn't go in the time of Moses and tell somebody, you're a Christian. Like, what? Right? Before you had Judah, you couldn't have Judaism. Right? If you look at this Confucianism, it's named after Confucius. So before Confucius was born, there was no Confucius. Islam is not named after anybody. We are not Muhammadans. We are not named after anybody because we, as Muslims, believe that we're upon the same religion that Abraham was upon, that Noah was upon, that Moses was upon, that Ismail and Ishaq and all the prophets, Jesus, peace be upon him, the religion that he was upon is the religion that we are upon. The way he prayed, as described in the Bible, putting his head to the ground, that is how we pray. We may not agree with everything that you find in King James's edited English version of the Bible you see today, because we don't believe King James had the right to edit and update and translate and do what he likes to the Bible. We believe that the original Bible, as it was revealed to the prophet Jesus in his Aramaic language, is what we believe in. The Koine Greek, the Latin that you find the standard Bibles in today, these are all translations of edits and updates. And our brother Abdullah, who used to be a Jehovah's Witness and now he's Muslim, he can explain that to you in much greater detail than I can. So if you have any questions about that, he's your man. He's our Bible expert. We'll continue without the James Bond music. So, now we know what Islam is. What is a Muslim? First thing, it's Muslim. Everybody say it with me. Muslim. Muslim? No. No, sorry. Not a Muslim, right? Islam is the religion. The people are called Muslim. I am not Islam. I am a Muslim, right? Just like somebody from Mexico is not Spanish and they don't speak Mexican. Okay? I'm serious, right? If you go to Mexico and you're like, oh, you're Spanish. You're like, no, I'm Mexican. Do you speak Mexican? No, I speak Spanish. So people come up to me, are you Islam? No, I'm just a person. I'm not Islam. I follow the religion of Islam. Oh, you believe in Muslim? No, I am a Muslim. I believe in Islam. Let's just get that clear. Because till today, every news outlet, Muslims, those Muslims, come on, man, just get this right. Muslim, it's not that hard. Muslim. 2 syllables, right? 2 syllables. Anyway, what is a Muslim? A Muslim is the one who submits, who performs that action of giving up themselves to their Creator. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you give up life. It doesn't mean you don't get married like priests and then sit in seminaries, little boys. It doesn't mean that. What does it mean? It means that you say that my Creator, my Lord, the one who made me, the God that created everything, that Creator knows best. So when He tells me, don't drink alcohol, I'm not going to drink alcohol. You know, as fun as that may seem, I realize that my Creator understands better that this has harms that outdo good. How many of you have known somebody that died in a drunk driving accident or has been in a drunk driving accident? Right? Imagine. Come on, be truthful. Yeah, raise your hand. There you go. Imagine that person, he didn't plan to kill somebody that day. But the number one killer in America, drunk driving. Well, why is it? You have a question? We'll save it until the end. We'll get to it. So, why is it that we don't realize that those laws that God sets for us are for our own benefit? That is what a Muslim is. And when we look at the word Muslim, it is not something that started with us. The Quran states that Jesus said, we are the helpers of Allah, we believe in Allah, and we bear witness that we are Muslims. So we believe in the same way as Jesus. This is our belief. And the Prophet Abraham, he is the one that said, it is he who has named you Muslims, both before and in the Quran. Meaning this word Muslim is not just from the Quran. Even if you go back to the earlier prophets, we believe that this idea of being called a submitter to the will of the Creator, this concept has been with every prophet. And that is why Islam did not begin with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We say peace be upon him with all the prophets. Right? But it was the same religion since the time of Adam. Concept of God in Islam. The word Allah, and you'll find the Arabic here, it is al-ilah, meaning the sole deity worthy of worship. It's a very strong word. And the word God is lacking in description of this word. Because God can have a goddess. When you say God, you are saying God's a man. Because you're giving gender. Otherwise it would be a goddess. You could have godlings. You could have relations. But al-ilah, Allah, means that there is no gender. There can be no two. There can be no three. It is the one creator of everything. He's not a man. He's not a woman. He's not black. He's not white. We don't give him those human characteristics. He is the creator of humans and other creations and other planets and other universes. That is the word used. It was used by Jesus in his Aramaic Hebrew of ilah. When we go back to the Hebrew language and their reference to God, you will find it in the Bible. If you look up the Hebrew or Aramaic Bibles, even though with the additions that they have, if you look at the original word, here are the references from the Bible, you will find that word. Lastly, why are we Muslims? Why did we choose this path? Because you're not born Muslim. I mean, we're all born on fitrah, on the pure belief. But you have to choose to be Muslim, even if you were born in a Muslim household or not. Abdullah was not born in a Muslim household, right? Jehovah's Witnesses. I was born in a Muslim household. Other people were and were not. We are no different. Both of us had to choose Islam. Because many people that are born in Muslim households don't know their religion. They're not true Muslims because they don't truly choose it. And many people who were born in non-Muslim households, they choose it and they are the best practicing Muslims. So it is something that you choose. Why did we choose this? Quickly. And again, I'm doing this as fast as possible. Everybody has a different idea why they're Muslim. Speak to a Muslim. Sit down with Abdullah and ask him, when you were an elder in the Jehovah's Witness hierarchy and you were ingrained in that mindset, why did you choose to leave all of that and become a Muslim? Myself, I look at myself as a human being. I work in the medical device industry. And when we look at the human body, look at each one of these 100 trillion cells in the human body. Your human body, your body, has about 100 trillion of these cells. Each one of them so complicated with the nucleus, with all kinds of functions that you couldn't design as an engineer. You couldn't design one. Each one of you has 100 trillion of them or more in your body. So when I look at that, there's got to be a design. I'll ask you a question. If I asked you, and because we're not doing a question and answer, just raise your hands. If I asked you to believe me that nobody built this auditorium, that this auditorium just came into existence over billions of years, grains of sand, through evolution. It was first a tree, and then it evolved itself into a cloud, and then it became a monkey, and then it became a chair. and all these walls and these roofs and these lights and that projector and this computer, this was not man-made. No engineer, no technicians, no IT staff, all of this entire room and everything in it came into existence by itself. By a raise of hands, how many people would believe me? If you do, I have a bridge to sell. Nobody? Now think about this. None of you would believe me. But your human body is more complicated. It is a greater feat of engineering than this room. You, with your eyes that see, with your ears that hear, your nose taking in oxygen, giving out carbon dioxide, plants doing the opposite to keep the balance of life. You, when you get cut, you heal yourself. When this light falls off, it's not going to put itself back up. Right? So how can you tell me that all of this just came out of nowhere? Just, billions of years. I gave you the same thing, billions and billions of years. You didn't believe me. But that professor is like, billions of years it happened. We just believe it. I don't believe it. I believe there is a creator, and I believe that this is a sign for us. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in the Quran. الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a challenge. Look at the heavens above you. Look at the sky. Look at this perfect atmosphere that God has created for us. Imagine if we didn't have this atmosphere, if we keep destroying this ozone layer and there was no oxygen that could be preserved, there would be no life on earth. Who built this system to protect us from the heat rays and the harm of the sun's layers and to keep the oxygen inside the atmosphere of the earth? You look up, you don't see any barriers, you don't see any walls. So there is a creator that created this. Think about this, look again, think again about all of this. Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and in the alternation of the night and the day, there are indeed signs for men of understanding. When you think, when you ponder, you will realize there is a creator. And that is why, after pondering and thinking, I chose to be a Muslim. I chose to read the Quran. And I want to say this last thing before I open up to questions and answers about the Quran. Unlike the Bible, or the Torah, or the Gita, or many of the religious texts, we still have the original Qur'ans that were written down by the companions of the Prophet himself, peace be upon him. We still have them. There's a picture of one, of three that I know of in existence. They're pretty big, yes. They didn't have small printing at the time. They were handwritten. We still have them. And you know what else we have? We have the whole Qur'an preserved in the hearts and minds of men, women, and children. So not a letter from the Qur'an has been lost. And that's why you can get a Muslim from Indonesia and a Muslim from Russia and have them read the same verses and they will recite the exact same verse. So we know that message has been preserved. And that is why we believe in it. It is preserved. It is a miracle. There are many other concepts to discuss here, but because of a lack of time, I will stop. I would encourage you all to get to know, for example, Abdullah here, or other brothers, and ask them about their journey to Islam, which would be a whole presentation in itself, so do it on your own time. And you can see why, even with all this media coverage and this 24 hours of brainwashing, Islam still is the fastest growing religion, not just by childbirth, but by people becoming Muslims by their own choice. So here, I invite all of you to build bridges of understanding. I invite all of you to learn about Islam. I'm not here to force anything on anybody. I'm only here to open the doors of da'wah and communication. And with that, we will open it up for question and answer. Oh, come on. Go ahead. Can you take the mic?
Thank you. And this is not a question, but a thank you.
I appreciate it.
Because I appreciate that you come to us open to educate us on something that a good number of us are ignorant, including myself. And I also applaud the courage of those of you who are here, especially my students, that made the time to be here. Along with the, this extracurricular opportunity that sometimes is offered through some of these activities, I believe that these are spaces that create a larger meaning towards our educational journey. So I just want to thank you for making this this time to educate us. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you calling us out here. Thank you. But I just want to say a thank you back. I appreciate those professors who have the insight and the thinking to encourage these kinds of dialogues. And I think these will be the people, the silent heroes in history that will have prevented many clashes of civilizations by this openness and understanding. We all need to respect each other and views and learn, and that will lead towards a better society for everyone. Yes?
Okay, so Islamic faith and Christian faith, they overlap about 92%. Everyone.
I haven't done the math, but okay. You must be a math major.
Being sarcastic.
I understand your question. Let me address it, and if I don't address it properly, you can follow. As Muslims, we obviously realize there are other faiths in the world. Even if there's 1.6 billion of us, there is 4.4 my math's not high, billion others who follow other faiths. A part of the Islamic faith is to protect the rights of people who want to follow a particular faith. How is that? In the Quran, as we read from the verse earlier, there is an ayat that mentions there is no compulsion in religion. Obviously, there are laws that are enforced in every society, right? But you cannot force somebody to become a Muslim. What is a Muslim? Again, somebody who submits themselves, right? Who with their heart and their tongue and their actions, they bring that belief into their life. Now, if I was to take a gun and put it to this man's head, because my friend, that's why I'm playing with him, I want to scare him to be real, right? And I made him forced to pray. In Islam, that prayer is not accepted. Because the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that every action is based upon your intention. وَإِنَّمَا كُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, and everybody will get what they intend. So if you force somebody, they cannot be a Muslim. In Islamic history, you will not find anywhere a people that were forced to be Muslim. This is only fiction that you will find on Fox News and right-wing media. Find it to me in history. In Spain, you're a professor? Of what? Sociology. Excellent. If we talk about the Spanish Inquisition, what happened in the Spanish Inquisition? When the Spaniards took Spain, which was known as Cordoba at the time, from the Moors, they genocided, they cleaned house. Jewish, Muslim, Christian that didn't agree with them, cleaned house. Wiped them out until there was no Muslim population left in Spain. But historically, look it up. When the Moors, the North African Muslims, ruled Spain, they didn't do the same. They didn't wipe out the population. Otherwise, there would have been no Christians left there. But they let the Christians live and practice their religion. They let the Jews live and practice their religion. Look up the Crusades. Look up Salahuddin Ayyubi. Salahuddin Ayyubi, and when he took back the place of Jerusalem from the Crusaders, he didn't massacre the Christians. He didn't massacre the Jews as the Crusaders had done. Look it up historically. Don't take my word. So as a Muslim and Islamic faith, we believe even under Muslim law, everybody has the right to practice their religion. Even govern themselves. There's a book by Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah called Ahkam Ahlul Dhimma, where he talks about even a Christian living in a Muslim land is allowed to use Christian law for his own internal affairs. But many Muslims may not be practicing that today. I want to make it clear. I want to tell you what Islam says. I'm not going to tell you what ISIS or this BAS is or whatever other acronym maybe out there does, because a lot of them may not know the religion. You're looking at political situations in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Somalia, and other places. You're looking at vacuums of governments. You're not looking at theologians. You're not looking at people who have degrees and understanding of Islamic rules and regulations. In Islam, we believe that people have the right to practice their religion, and we believe that nobody can be forced to become Muslim. Now, do we believe that all of the Christian faith is in accordance with our faith? Obviously not. You said the 92%, right? So for that other 4% or 6%, 8%, okay, I'm not a math major, all right? I got my MBA in business, wasn't math, I wasn't accounting. So that difference is there. we do not believe in the divinity of Jesus. As the early Christian church didn't believe in the divinity of Jesus. Here's my man if you want to talk about that. So we believe that Jesus was born to Mary, and it was a miracle. He was born without a father. It was a miraculous birth, a sign from the signs of our Creator to show a miracle. As Adam was born without a father or mother, as Eve was born without a father or mother, but we don't believe they're biological children of God. This is a human idea. My kids and uncles and roommates and cousins, this is a human idea. We believe God is above having biological children. If we talk about children of God, like in the Bible, where God addresses the people of Israel as the children of God, meaning close to them, sure, we can agree with that. Like you go to a priest and you're like, Father, I have sinned, or whatever, right? You don't really mean he's your father. Like, you're not going to come home and find him at the dinner table, right? He's a priest, right? So you're saying father in a term of respect. And he may turn to you and say, son, do this. Hail Mary, this, right? Well, he doesn't mean, son, how's mom, man? No, he means son in the sense that of endearment. In that way, if you say that God is a father in a term of endearment to the people of Israel or all children of God, we could go with that, right? But if you mean that a biological child, we don't go with that, right? So we have our differences, and we respect our differences, and we allow people to practice their religion, and we ask to be able to practice our religion. Any other questions?
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
I'll wait.
It's okay, go ahead.
All right, so,
We'll get you the mic so you can hear.
this mic makes me nervous, but okay.
Just take a deep breath.
As a Christian,
Think we're all carrots or something.
as a Christian, we believe in Christ.
Excellent.
And I understand that one of the difference between Christians and Muslims is that Christians don't believe that Muhammad was actually the prophet for the Islamic faith, correct? Am I correct? Yes.
That is correct. Christians
that's
do not
correct.
believe that, otherwise they'd be
So,
Muslim.
do Islamics, and do you guys believe that, so you guys believe in Jesus and all of that, you guys just don't believe that biologically he is his son because God is not a human.
Excellent.
So, why don't Christians believe that Muhammad was a prophet?
That's a great question for Christians, right? Again.
I mean, like, I know there's like two counter arguments that say one,
Sure. Go ahead. What's the counter
I
argument?
know it's a long, I don't know them, I'm
okay.
asking you. I know it's a long list of why, but.
Excellent. So one thing is, I believe everybody should speak on behalf of what they know best, right? So for me to stand and speak on behalf of a Christian population would be as ludicrous as Bill O'Reilly speaking on my behalf, or Fox News, or anybody else that's on Fox News. This is the question. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of the Christian population. They may have their own reasons not to believe in the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, even though, if you ask Abdullah, he was a Christian, and he accepted the belief that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a prophet, as Jesus, peace be upon him, and those before him were prophets. And there are signs in the Old Testament and in the Bible that point towards a comforter, a prophet coming, and we believe that was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But people have the right. If people don't want to believe, they have the right. Why they don't want to believe? That's their own personal choice. Maybe there are social pressures. Maybe there are other issues they don't want to give up. So that's a question we can really take to a Christian population and ask them, hey, why don't you believe in the Prophet? Because I do, so.
All right, one more question.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. One more question. I forgot to ask that.
We'll come back to you, don't worry. Gentleman in the blue hoodie. Oh, you raised your hand, right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Like, I'm ready.
You have a mic.
I was ready to speak, and then I'm like, oh shit. I was okay, good. What I wanted to say was, my beliefs, like, I just want to know, were your beliefs through your own personal life living experiences that brought you to believe in what you believe in? Because that's how I feel. I believe in my Creator is like my higher power, right? And I believe in Jesus. I believe it because of stuff that has happened to me, and that leads me to believe that. I'm just asking, is that how you guys, or how you? No, I'm sorry.
I got you. No, I got your question. Perfect. No problem. I got you.
How you guys did that?
So again, as you have alluded to, belief is a very personal thing. Everybody has different experiences in life. You know, some people meet up in classrooms wearing dickies and go into gang fights. Inside joke. And then you find out your own, or you find your path, right? Like you found yours. Myself, I was raised in the United States. My mother is here. I came to the U.S. very young. I think I was maybe like in 5th grade or 4th grade or something like that. I was raised here. I had no Muslim friends growing up, you know, as a child, like, you know, elementary and kindergarten, or elementary and middle school and stuff. So I grew up with a lot of, well, at the time, in my high school, you were either white, black, or Mexican. And I was too dark to be white and too light to be black, so I was Mexican for a long part of my life. And then when I was around the age of 17, 18, I went on a path to research religions. You know, I had a friend that died, got shot, all that kind of stuff, and made me think. And I didn't become Muslim just because my parents were Muslim. I looked into religions, I read about them, I took classes, I went to temples and synagogues and kingdom halls and all kinds of places, you know, Shuri temples and PB and all that. And after researching and looking at the history of the Bible and how it had been changed, and the Torah and the differences between rabbinic laws, I chose to be a Muslim, studying the Quran and looking at the precision in recording of the Quran. That is my personal journey, right? Miracles have happened to all of us. You know, if I was to say that, oh, you know, this miracle happened to me, then everybody's gonna be like, whoa, this happened to me and this happened to me. So I'm not gonna get into those experiences. But this is how I personally found. And I can tell you that if I hadn't, I would either be in jail or dead. So I'm glad. I'm sure my kids are glad they wouldn't be born. So everybody has their experiences and everybody finds their way. And I would encourage you, as I personally went through the Bible. You know, I read the Bible cover to cover more than once. I used to go to a New Horizon youth group off of Genesee, and every Wednesday youth group, I used to be there. I went to many quinceañeras and all that kind of stuff. I would encourage you to read other texts as well. Read the Quran, get one. You know, excellent. Read the Torah, the Old Testament. You know, read about other faiths. At minimum, you will get a respect for other people and understand. You know, sometimes when you are in the other part of the world, when you're in the Muslim lands, you know, you see somebody who may be doing something that is normal for us here, like dribbling a ball, right? And it freaks people out over there. What the heck's he doing? You know, why doesn't he just hold the ball? Why does he keep throwing it on the ground, right? You know, so, you know, you look at, you know, I was in Pakistan and we're talking about football, you know, American football, and they were like, well, they don't even kick the ball. They don't even use the foot. How can you call it football? Like, I don't know, it's football. Well, we kick the ball. No, that's soccer. We don't sock anybody. How's that soccer? Right? At least you can get to know other people and cultures and religions, and you never know. I mean, never think that you have the ultimate answer, you know? Because until you've studied and known other religions, how would you know? That's why as Muslims, when we choose Islam, it is after study. Many of us have studied the Bible, we've studied other texts, and we've chosen. So I encourage you to study. Any other questions? Gentleman in the blue, light, teal, green, bluish, cool shirt. Let's leave it at that.
Do the beards represent anything?
My battery's dead. Totally ruined my joke. Because they're cool. No. I'm a Duck Dynasty fan. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so the beard do represent something. Hair on your face. What it is, if we look at the nature of man, a man in nature, he has facial hair, right? I mean, for example, yourself, if you didn't shave for the next month, you'd probably be competing with me, right? So, maybe not that cool. All right. But a man naturally has facial hair. It represents him as a man. There are physical features that represent a woman as a woman, a man as a man. And these are one of the features that you find through all of the prophets. If you go back to the Old Testament and the New Testament, you will not find Moses or Jesus or Abraham or Noah or any of them represented without a beard. This is the way of the pious prophets of the past, and this is the way of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So a Muslim man is encouraged, it's an order from the Prophet, to trim up the mustache so that when you're eating and drinking you don't get all this nasty food. Anyway, so to trim up the mustache and let the beard grow. So that's a part of the Muslim faith. Now, I'm not saying that if somebody doesn't have a beard, they're not Muslim. Let's not get carried away here, right? There are many things that a person does which go in stages, right? I mean, when you, for example, are you a senior, sophomore, junior? That's what the college, I guess. Freshman, excellent, right? So you're a freshman. Now, if I was to throw you into a PhD level test, would it be easy for you? Probably not. You know, you're just getting started. So you have to learn your basics. In Islam, when you come to Islam, first you should learn the basics. What is the belief in one God? What is the idea of not worshiping cows and monkeys and things like this? Why is that such an important tenet in Islam? What is the protection of the rights of the community such an important part of Islam? And then we discuss things like cool robes and beards and cool hats and all that kind of stuff. Because even if you didn't wear a robe or have a beard or a hat, you're still Muslim. So. Next question. We got the lady who remembers her question.
Okay, so I was here last semester, and I noticed that you keep mentioning that we don't, we as in Muslims don't believe the idea that, Christ is, Allah, God's son.
So?
And as Christians, the idea of saying that Jesus is God's son, as far as if you get a DNA test, no, he is not his son as like that.
Okay.
But we believe it's more of a metaphorical term as being his son.
So he's not the physical son of God.
Yeah, he's not the physical son of God.
A lot of Christians would disagree with you. So, how many Christians do we have here? I'm not going to kill all you guys in the parking lot or anything, don't worry about it. All right, how many Christians do we have? Right, raise a hand. Excellent. How many of you believe Jesus is the actual begotten Son of God?
DNA-wise.
Right, begotten Son, like actual born Son. Okay? How many of you don't believe that he's the begotten Son of God?
That is metaphorical.
That is metaphorical. It's not the actual Son.
He's the heart and soul through God.
Okay, we got one. We got two.
I have Bible verses to back it up.
Okay, so I will let you guys work out your theology of Christianity on your own time. As I said, I'm not here to speak on behalf of the Christian population. I have met Christians who have said what you have said, that it's a metaphor out of love, and we would agree with them. But I have also met other Christians, and I would say the majority of Christians that I have met have said that no, he is the physical Son of God, DNA, biological, begotten, right? I don't agree with that, but I have to respect that that is their belief. So, if you were to bring the belief that he's not physically the Son of God, rather it's a metaphor to show love and respect, you would be upon the Muslim belief about Jesus, right? If you were to say, no, he is the actual begotten Son, like he physically is the DNA Son of God, he is God himself, apparently, in some beliefs, then a Muslim would not agree with you. Other questions? Gentleman in the back, great shirt.
Yes, how you doing?
How you doing?
First off, I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Because this is something I've been dealing with and thinking about for a long time. Because like you say, the media does control the minds of the masses.
True.
And it's something that goes on in my head a lot. And with Fox News, when you mention Fox News, they give it to Muslims and Islam, but black folks get it a lot too.
True.
And the thing is, when I watch Fox News, I can't even imagine, like if I wasn't black, how it would view black people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it's a constant onslaught. Like every time I turn it on, and you wonder, I'm thinking like, God dang, no wonder I got pulled over by this cop the other day.
No doubt.
Because look what's on the news.
Fox News.
So it's so my question is, what is a good counter to the Sean Hannity's and the Bill O'Reilly? I mean, they do their reporting and stuff like that, but they never report the, they never give like the good side or the opposite. They always talk about how blacks are thugs and all this, but you never have the opposite of that. You never talk about blacks graduating from school or, you never see the good side. You know, or same thing with Muslims and Islam. So
I totally agree with you.
what's a good counter to that?
Great question. Before I answer the question, I want to express further agreement by the fact that, you know, I was listening to, I think it was Bill O'Reilly or Roger Hitchcock or some racist right-wing guy, and, you know, he was talking about the man that was shot, the African-American man in New York, while he was restrained. He was shot, right? He's like, it's his fault. He was trying. What was he trying? He was restrained. You know, we just had the shooting in LA. I don't know if you saw the video. You know, there were like 10 cops, and they were unloading on some poor little homeless guy that was on the floor. And if you watch the video, even after they unloaded a clip into him, they're like, don't like bleed on me. There was a man, an African-American man, that was arrested and charged with bleeding on an officer after being assaulted. Well, I'm glad you think that's funny. No, this is so true. I'm just kidding. It is so true. Google it. A man was arrested for destroying government property because he was bleeding on an officer's uniform after being beaten and assaulted while being inside of jail. So when we see these kinds of things, we realize that the struggle for the African American rights, it's not finished. It's not done. Just because we got Obama in the White House doesn't mean you're done. Look at Ferguson. Look at all over. Another point I want to make is a lot of our neighbors to the south in Mexico. When we look at a lot of them, they get a really bad rep too. You know, if you look at how Hispanic Americans or Latinos are represented in the media, they're all represented as illegals and taking jobs. I want to see Bill O'Reilly pick cherries for $2 an hour up to $5. He's not doing it, right? So it's not just Muslims. People have been made scapegoats. People have been smeared by bigots like Fox and others for centuries. You know, if they didn't have cable Fox channels, they had the German radio shows, right? What is the alternative? Unfortunately, I can't give you any mainstream alternative because those alternative voices that speak the truth get muffled. I don't think Hitler was very good about letting somebody go, wait a minute, are you sure you need to make those cans and things? You know, right? If somebody comes out, and you can watch the O'Reilly show and you can see how he yells down people. To me, the only news that I think is worth watching nowadays is Jon Stewart, and he's a comedy show, so unfortunately, that's the situation we're in today. But there are voices, there are people who are, especially on YouTube and things like this, like, what's that funny British comedian guy? Austin guy. Russell Crowe. What's Crowe? Yeah, whatever his name is. Democracy Now! It's also, you can Google it. You know, but another thing I would suggest is Google newspapers from other countries. Go read Al Jazeera. Go read, I'm not saying it's perfect, but go read a Pakistani newspaper. Go read, they're in English, you can read them. Go read another language newspaper that may be translated to English and try to see how the world is seeing a situation. See what's important in other parts of the world, and you might get a better picture. But as far as corporate mainstream media, unfortunately, it's all bought out. Look, you know, I'm not here to talk about conspiracies or anything like that, but Google, all wars are banker wars. They're started by bankers, there's always profit, you know, it's not just now. Unfortunately, Muslims are up to bat for, you know, who to be blamed for things right now, but before us, there was commies, and before us, there was the Japanese, and there was, you know, you look at the Pachuco riots and the Hispanic population and what they went through, and what they're still going through. You know, you look at the Minutemen and the kind of stuff they put out there, you look at the African American struggle and what it's still going through, you look at the Asian American struggle. You know, many Asian Americans, you know, when you talk about making jokes, now, in most places, making jokes about African Americans is not acceptable. It used to be back in the days, but not anymore. In most, I know, racist people still exist. But if you want to crack a joke about a Muslim, free, do it. You want to crack a joke about Asian Americans, oh, that math quiz, you know, laundry guy, all this racist stuff. People make it. People have racist shirts about Asian Americans. So the struggle is still going, and it's going to always be there. What you have to do is open up these lines of communication. Get to know people. Get to see that the image of an African American man that Fox is shoving down your throat is not truly a true image. It's taking a sample and trying to make it a whole. The image of Latino Americans who are hardworking people in this country being illegals who are taking your job, these are incorrect images. And this image of Muslims being these crazy, bloodthirsty terrorists that are cutting off heads, these are incorrect images. Look, ISIS and all this, they are students of our foreign policy. There's a reason they have them in cages, because we had them in cages. You don't think we did executions? Go look up Abu Ghraib, the prison with the torture, and look up the pictures that you didn't see on the news. There's a lot more than what you saw. Those little pyramids of naked guys, that wasn't the extent of what went on. So we should realize, we shouldn't be blind to the fact that a lot of this is because of our own doing. And if we cannot look at ourselves, look at President Obama, he made that statement, and Rudy Giuliani or whatever came out, he said, he doesn't love America. How can you tell somebody they don't love America because they're saying, hey, let's look at our own history before we start pointing fingers? Who are you to judge who loves America and doesn't? So don't let this bigotry stop you from portraying a positive image and portraying what is right and researching Democracy Now! And listening to that, Al Jazeera or other news sources and learning. And most of all, talk to people. Communicate. Come by the mosque. Go by a church. Go to a synagogue. Have some hummus or whatever. Love it. All right. Next question. No more questions? Nice. Oh, you have a question. Before you make your comment, I wanted to make a comment myself. When we talk about hate crime, there are going to be Christians, there are going to be Jews, there are going to be Buddhists. The best thing is to build a future where we can work together and understand and learn. Thank you very much.